All right, gang, we're going over a comic series that when it was first announced, I was really excited about. But unfortunately, and this is just my opinion, let me know if you feel the same way, I felt like it kind of went off the rails real quickly. So this is Weapon X issue 1, and I had to get the variant cover with, the old school Wolverine versus Sabretooth, which once we go through, you'll understand that this actually captures sort of what this issue encompasses. But this is not the Wolverine of this time period. So for those of you that may not have been in comics around, what was it, y'all, 2017-ish, 2018, Marvel thought it would be a great idea to kill off Wolverine. And I think it was a mixture of they wanted to sell books, which if you read The Death of Wolverine, it's actually I find it very endearing on how they respect Logan. But I think it was also for a cash grab. And I think it was between the fighting between Fox and Marvel Studios at the time, because Fox owned both the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, hence why after Secret Wars we didn't see Rita Sue, and why the X-Men kind of took a back seat to the Inhumans, and why there for a good long while I did not like the Inhumans. That said, to appease fans, what they did after Secret Wars is they brought Old Man Logan from Mark Millar's original run, or event, whatever you might want to call it, into the main 616 universe. And so that's who we have here as Old Man Logan. We just kind of see him here. It says, they call me a mutant, a freak of nature. They're wrong about that second part. Me and nature, we get along fine. And even though I'm not a big fan of this modern art style, when you kind of go back and look at artwork such as the old school, like New Mutants, where, they actually had to draw the Marvel way, this to me just does not hold a candle to it. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just not my preference after going through old school Claremont style comic books. But I do love the visual representation. I wish there was thought balloons. I miss that in modern comics. But when he says a freak of nature, we see a baby deer drinking from this lake with its mother. And like how it shows with the doe, it says a freak of nature, not doe, whatever the baby's called, I can't remember. Anyway, it says a freak of nature. And then the slight smile on his face, and then we see that the doe is brought to attention. And it also catches Logan's attention. What it is hikers, and they admit to Logan that they're lost. Because I could smell 9 different kinds of perfumes and deodorants and lotions and repellents, none of which can drown out the stink of fear. No guide, huh? Yeah, we kind of got lost. And we can't get a signal. You wouldn't happen to have a phone that works, or head up the river about 7 miles. Down a hill, you'll hit a bridge. Go west and the trail heads another 5 miles. Awesome. And west is which way? The sun rises in the east. Oh, right. And so he goes, as he explains to them how to get back to where they were, he goes, and then the fear stink fades. And all I smell is their relief. Just kids muddling through. Gotta remember, not everybody's a soldier in this war. And so we're thinking that he has a moment of peace, being able to help somebody, but then we see this look of surprise. And then we see that these hikers are actual, reavers. I guess you could call them reavers. Gotcha. Because they're too damn fast. And how the hell did I let something like that sneak up on me? And so I will say that the opening of this, that surprise was really awesome. It just kind of brings you in. So, Weapon X. This is Greg Pak writing, Greg Land doing the penciling, Jay Leisten doing the inks, colorist Frank D'Armata, letters VC's Joe Caramagna, and the print date on this was June 2017. So as the book begins, we see that we have Old Man Logan, Domino, Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, and Warpath. So pretty much, other than X-23, a lot of the victims here of the Weapon X program. The only other one that would be missing, but he wasn't so much a hunter like these particular characters would, I guess, be Phantom X, because he was part of Weapon 10 or whatever. So if you want to read it, kind of the idea about what Weapon X is trying to do, go ahead and pause and read that. Bottom line, these Reaver-esque robots are trying to catch all of our characters that we just see starting to come into play. And of course, Wolverine, being the survivor that he is, finds a way to bypass them, for lack of a better term. And then we go into the Weapon X program. He goes, those long nail fingers. There's only one person that could possibly have this. And it says Yuriko. And so we see that they've already caught Lady Deathstrike. Now, when it comes to Lady Deathstrike, don't get me wrong, I like the look that they went for here, though I will say that it is hard now to distinguish between her and X-23. I can't remember, was Yuriko's hair originally red, and then when she became Lady Deathstrike, the cyborg, did her hair turn red? Because that's how I was always introduced to her, through the old comics, the X-Men the Animated Series, and now they're giving her the black hair like in the X2 movie. What was it called? X-Men United or whatever. So I don't know if that's just a stylistic choice to try to match comics with movies, or if it's just something I'm missing. Let me know down in the comments. And what I love is they say, wait, what is she? And we see that she's screeching on the glass, and it goes, kill you all. Now, at first, when I saw these yellow jerkins or lab uniforms or whatever, I thought it was AIM, but it's not. You go, well, that's cheery. Don't worry, you won't have to put up with her much longer. The old operations didn't get the whole animal. Here's a couple of pounds of Wolverine. And then, of course, we get the foreshadowing of Domino, Warpath. Now, that's another thing. So I kind of feel like I've seen this before. If we jump into 2020-ish, when they did House of X and Powers of 10, and then they launched into Benjamin Percy's X-Force, which I will say, as much as I trash on Krakoa, Benjamin Percy's X-Force was probably the better books of all of them, in my personal opinion. But if you remember, for those of you that have kind of watched the reviews that I did of those, what was it in the Krakoa? The Orchid Syndicate or whatever, they took Domino and they were taking pieces of her and putting them on themselves in order to infiltrate Krakoa to be read as a mutant in order to assassinate Xavier. So I'm kind of wondering if this is where they got the idea for that. And what kind of kills me is we get this cool action scene, we get the setup, and then it gets a little slow. We get Logan doing computer work, and he goes, it's ridiculous, but I've never felt so threatened in my life. Because there's an old man saying, you've been on that computer for 20 minutes. I know, just 1 second. There's a 15-minute limit rule, you know. 1 second. Excuse me, this man's hogging the computer. It's ridiculous. I've never felt so threatened in my life. No need to yell, sir. Now, what's the problem? I told you this man is hogging the computer. They all smell so normal, soft, weak. And any one of them could be one of them. And even though the paneling's kind of flat, kind of boring, we get the idea of why Logan's looking at security cameras, because his whole point is trying to hunt down Creed. And so even though there's a kind of a lull, we at least get a couple of moments of fighting between Sabretooth and Wolverine. And so that at least harkens back to the cover, but talking about how it's not our Berserker Brown Wolverine, it is old fart Wolverine. Now again, in terms of visual storytelling, we get these, I don't mind the rectangle panels. It at least kind of helps move the story. But what I find personally boring about it, and I'll try to remember to link some comics for examples, but modern, they're just kind of going back and forth about what they've ran into. Logan says, they got you too, huh? What do you know? Killer cyborgs using people like skins? They got me too, man. The one that came for me, it was a kid. Just a little kid. Her freaking face split right in half and a million claws came out. Crazy world, huh? Now, in terms of storytelling, what would be more interesting for you, the reader? Standing and talking? Or, and God, I wish I could remember who the writer and the artist were, but that issue of Fantastic Four we went over where they essentially assisted the High Evolutionary on his planet. Remember how they did like that head of the Evolutionary, whatever, and they did that beautiful collage page, and then within the head or whatever it was, they had split panels giving you a rundown of everything while I can't remember his name, but the guy that basically brought the Fantastic Four to the High Evolutionary. And we got little moments in between, and it was dynamic and it was beautiful. So tell me, what would you think would be more interesting here? Two old farts talking, or seeing like some maybe colorful flashbacks while we get kind of the voiceover narration of Creed and seeing this kid's head split open with a million claws instead of just words. And that's where I get a little frustrated, because then after that, we could have cut to where Logan says, I'm hungry. You hungry? Where are you going? You look like crap, by the way. Yeah, well, it takes a while to regrow half your internal organs and 100 pounds of muscle. And so it's more sitting and talking, arguing with each other. And then the book ends with, die, mutants. And here's the thing, is that if they would have turned that into a 2-page splash with like a beautiful collage montage style, kind of going over a series of however long, they could have saved these other panels for at least getting these guys to get into a couple of scraps before, maybe instead of just, die, mutants, and then it says to be continued. We could have seen maybe both of their collective butts get kicked by the cyborg, and then have him standing, a dynamic shot of his foot, victorious over both knocked out mutants and saying, die, mutants, and then to be continued. To me, that would have been more dynamic and more engaging. So at this point, the artwork was kind of meh. But the idea of what they were going for is what really drew me to Weapon X. Now, why I said it went off the rails real fast for me, if you guys followed this at any point, the idea of this new Weapon X program hunting down all their original experiments, great concept, lots of fun. And Wolverine, Sabretooth, Domino, you're going to have some bloody good time. I mean, look at Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost X-Force's run, or Jeff Lemire's Uncanny X-Force. But what really made me just drop out of this book was, we're getting along this with, and then they created the what was it called, Weapon Hulk or whatever it was, the World War Hulk. No, not World War Hulk. But essentially, they took a soldier, gave him gamma radiation mixed with all of these characters' powers, and he was like a hopped up steroid Hulk with all of Sabretooth and everybody's powers. And I was like, oh my God, who cares at that point? And that was just me. Then they called it the Hulkverine or something like that, and I was like, nope, I'm done. But what do you guys think of this run? Did you finish it to the kicking and screaming end with Hulkverine? Because I did not. I couldn't care. But if you have enjoyed what you've seen and you want to kind of start an adventure and see what y'all think, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever's going to get your action figures and comics, and grab this series. If you've enjoyed this review / rant, I guess you could say, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Weapon X bell, next subscribe. That way, as I continue content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure that the links down in the description. Additionally, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to help support the channel, I have also left a PayPal tip jar link down in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you all stopping by and checking out the video. Either way, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.